I built lies for a living. Not just lies, I turned them into art. I planted seeds of doubt inside people's minds, watered them until they grew into rage. And when strangers started tearing each other apart, I wrote it up as a performance report. That was my job. That was my life. My name is Kang Doyun, 39 years old. I was once the chief strategist of a special operations media unit. Now I'm the person who explains exactly how dangerous that kind of operation is. This is the story of how I crossed from one side to the other. Like a river, literally. I entered a state broadcasting institution at 16. My grades were strong, my voice was good, and above all, I had a natural instinct for shaping narratives. My supervisor told me once, "You have a gift for moving people." I took it as a compliment. Back then, I wore it like a badge. By my mid-20s, I was assigned to a special unit focused on psychological influence operations. I produced radio content, engineered stories to be seeded online, and designed strategies to erode trust between communities. The targets were always people on the outside, people I had never met, never seen. That distance made it easy. I met Seo Yeon when I was 28. She worked in the translation department, 2 years younger than me. The kind of person whose eyes smiled before her lips did. We married, and 3 years later our daughter was born. A girl. I chose her name myself, Nare. It means wings in Korean. The year Nare turned 5, I was promoted to acting unit director. We moved to better housing. Our rations improved. Seo Yeon was happy. So was I, or at least, I told myself I was. The first crack appeared on an ordinary autumn afternoon. As part of content analysis work, I briefly intercepted an external broadcast signal. We did this to study what people on the outside were watching, what emotional language they used. That day, the image that appeared on my monitor was a public square. People from 2 different sides were holding each other's hands. A band was playing. Children were running. Elderly couples were laughing. Nothing remarkable, just peace. And yet something in my chest went hollow. Because I knew that those same people were already doubting each other. Because of stories I had made. My fabrications had already seeped into the spaces between them. The screen went dark. I finished my report. That night, I couldn't sleep. I buried that feeling for a long time. Then, 2 months later, the directive arrived. A thick sealed envelope. Maximum classification. Inside were more than 100 pages. I read them alone in the director's office. It took 2 hours. It was not a propaganda manual. It was a precision blueprint for social fracture. Specific demographics were identified as targets. There were timelines for when to trigger which emotions, which stories to release after which events, which channels to use, which language patterns to deploy. There were real categories of real people sorted by occupation, region, and psychological profile, listed as subjects to be destabilized. I closed the final page and my hands were shaking. This isn't broadcasting. This is a weapon. That night I went home without a word. Seo Yeon was putting Nare to bed. I stood in the doorway of my daughter's room and watched her sleep for a long time. The child I had named Wings. The world she would grow up in, I had helped shape that world. For the first time, that truth felt real in my body, not just in my mind. I began to prepare. It wasn't reckless. Over several months, I moved carefully. Accessing operational files was within my authorized scope. I used that access to copy key documents, the directive, strategic timelines, distribution channel records, historical operation analysis reports. I split them across 3 USB drives and concealed each one separately. Those 5 seconds pressing the drive into the gap at the back of a desk drawer, sweat in my palm, breath held, heartbeat loud in my ears, I still remember them exactly. Nothing happened. I walked out. I did it again. And again. 4 months passed. Then a field inspection trip came up, routine equipment checks near the border. I volunteered. Casually, with the face of a man who had nothing to hide. The night before I left, I said to Seo Yeon, This one might run a little long. That was all. I had more to say. The words wouldn't come. She said, "Okay, take care of yourself." Nare was already asleep. I sat beside her for a moment, brushed her hair once with my hand, and walked out of the room. On the third day of the trip, I found a moment alone with Chol, the security officer assigned to our team. A quiet man, loyal, but with eyes that sometimes seemed to carry a question he never asked. I took the risk. "Chol," I said, "I think I've been on the wrong road for a long time." He didn't speak for a while. Then, "Patrol rotation leaves a 5-minute gap near the river. Before and after the shift change. I don't know anything about it." He walked away. I watched his back and exhaled slowly. The river was colder than I had imagined. I held the waterproof pouch above my head. The water rose to my waist, then my chest. My breathing shortened. Behind me, I heard something: footsteps, current, my own heartbeat. I couldn't tell which. I didn't look back, not once. When my feet touched the far bank, I sat down and couldn't move for almost a minute. I didn't know if I was cold or afraid or relieved. It was all three. The connector who helped me reach the third country was a man named Lin. Few words, clean routes, no unnecessary questions. At one point I asked him why he did this kind of work. He thought for a moment. "I'm not sure. It just feels like something I'm supposed to do." When I finally stood in front of the embassy building, my legs gave out completely. I sat down on the steps outside the entrance. Lin put a hand on my shoulder from behind. I didn't make a sound. I just wept, for a long time. The door opened. The debrief took 3 days. On the third afternoon, one of the investigators looked at me and asked quietly, "Why did you bring it out?" I thought for a moment. At first to survive, now to tell the truth. He didn't ask anything more. He looked briefly at the window, then turned back to his papers. That was my answer then. It's still my answer now. I give lectures. I explain how media can be engineered to manipulate emotion, how stories spread online are sometimes deliberately designed, and how to recognize the difference. I use the skills I once used to build deception to help people identify it. Whether that counts as redemption, I honestly don't know. Seoyeon and Nare, there's still no contact. No way to know. Some nights I wake up whispering her name. Wings, the name I gave her. I don't know what kind of world she's living in right now. That is the weight I carry. But I get up, and I keep talking. Somewhere, I hope this reaches her. Nare, your father is here, on this side. Still waiting.